Sing it. Sonic Hero. Watch right here, right here. Congratulations to Sonic the Hedgehog. It's its 25th anniversary this weekend, and it's what a 25 years. What a 25 years. 25 years of some good stuff, loads of disappointment, some little bits of hope here and there at the end, but mostly still disappointment. 25 years. Oh yes. And also, huge congratulations to Sega for a special world-breaking event that happened this weekend, where Konami's famous E3 press conference was somehow topped. Now the Sonic 25th livestream is the most cringy, embarrassing, amazing, majestic shit show that has ever been witnessed by human eyes. There's a compilation on my channel. You can also watch the full video on demand, on Sega's official channels, and it's highly recommended. From audio hiccups to visual hiccups to cringy stuff on the stage to failed audience participation, it is a treasure, a national treasure. Do watch it. Congrats, Sonic! The subject of emulation is a tricky one, especially taboo in traditional games media, where you're often not supposed to mention its existence and you certainly can't be seen endorsing it. It's a bit like Voldemort from that movie, Game of Thrones. People vaguely allude to it in hushed tones, afraid to speak its name lest such invocation bring its noxious presence to one's doorstep. Daring to speak in favour of ROMs, that is, versions of games, usually old ones that are easily and freely downloadable for use on a computer or phone, is often seen as advocacy for piracy. This conflation is seen not just in games media, but among plenty of enthusiast communities, as well as the games industry itself, for obvious financial reasons. A few years ago, there was a famous bust-up between a number of games journalists and Forbes contributor Eric Kane. Kane had written a story about Nightmare Busters, a quote-unquote brand new SNES game that was being sold for $60. In Kane's article, he pointed out that despite the billing, the game was not actually new. It had simply never gotten an official release before. He then pointed out that the game had been previously available for the princely price of fucking nothing, because ROMs of this unreleased game had been around for quite some time. The article went so far as to contain a link to a download of the game, a move that drew the ire of more established games journalists. A couple of prominent journos really laid into Kane, calling him out for advocating theft, which led to a lot of back and forth, a lot of journos weighing in, and all sorts of juicy passive-aggressive drama. The final end result was that Kane removed the link to the emulation, apologised for not considering how he could have been seen to condone piracy, and that was that. Now, there's a lot that can be said about the argument that was had there. Many sided with Kane, suggesting that the journalists in question were needlessly hostile and determined to assume malice above naivety. Others felt Kane was out of line, or at least agreed that directly linking to the emulation while the developer was selling an official version of Nightmare Busters wasn't exactly classy. But here's the thing, though Eric himself removed the link, apologised, and even wrote a huge addendum explaining his stance and distancing himself from emulators, there's something I feel the need to say in the wake of Nintendo recently announcing the NES Mini, itself a glorified official emulator of limited capacity. Eric Kane had a point. This is something I've been thinking about for years and have never gotten around to covering for one reason or another. Games media is so incredibly against mentioning emulators and ROMs, and when they do, it comes with a mountain of caveats. The Eric Kane thing aside, games media has always walked on eggshells whenever the topic comes up, terrified to be seen as advocating theft. And I do get that. I mean, if you're illegally downloading a thing that is being sold by an official entity, then yeah, you are stealing by modern standards, which on a personal level is something you can all sort out between yourselves and your gods. But whether it's stealing or not, I absolutely don't think it should be swept under the carpet, because the existence of emulators throw up some important questions about the pricing of older games and the consistent inability or unwillingness of the games industry to compete with easier and cheaper means of accessing their products. The aforementioned NES Mini is a prime example of this. It's a $60 pretend console with 30 NES games packed into it. There's no way to download or physically insert new games. It's essentially one of those plug and play things you get at Walgreens. screens, my personal interest in the thing sits at 0, and when I say that, it annoys some people because heaven forfend you not be excited about a thing as someone else. They tell me that $60 for 30 NES games is good value because it equates to $2 a game and Nintendo sells the same games on its virtual console for around $5. Now that's a compelling argument on its face. On its face, getting $5 games for a wholesale price of $2 a piece is a great deal, provided you believe one thing. You gotta believe that NES games are worth $5 to begin with. Value is subjective, of course, and you may indeed believe those games are worth it. I do not. NES games are not worth $5 to me in general. The vast majority of them aren't worth $2 to me. In fact, looking at the NES Minis game list, I can point out maybe 5 that I'd buy for $1. It's not just that most NES games are crap, though that's part of it, it's that they've been inherently devalued over the years in a number of ways. For a start, several of those games have been available on dozens of 100-in-1 plug-and-play cheapo consoles for decades. Then, we have to consider the rise of mobile gaming, which routinely provides addictive and long-lasting games for $1 or less. I can play Steppy Pants on my phone for free and get more out of it than the 30 seconds I'd spend in Ice Climber before getting incredibly bored of Ice Climber. On an official level, retro and arcade games have been released, re-released, remixed, and remastered so many times over the years that I really don't need another fucking copy of Donkey Kong. And then of course there's the aforementioned emulation and ROMs, which nobody wants to talk about, but exist nonetheless. The ability to acquire any number of these games instantly, easily, for free. In the face of all that, well, how the fuck can I be convinced to believe Balloon Fight is worth more than 50 cents at best? Just try and tell me I should spend more than $1 on Balloon Fight. Anybody ever tells me that, my first instinct would be to spit on them. Just spit all on them for like a minute, which, incidentally, means I'd spend a lot longer spitting on someone than I would playing goddamn Balloon Fight. God damn. I'm not saying we should be unwilling to pay for something if we want to play it. That's only fair in exchange of money for service. But I hold true to the belief that the fight against piracy has never been more effective as when companies try to compete with piracy rather than attempt to destroy it. As has been proven by the likes of iTunes and Netflix, people are willing to pay money if it gets them their entertainment quickly, conveniently, and at a reasonable price. I'm willing to buy a song for $1 on iTunes. I'm willing to pay for Spotify Premium to access music whenever I want it. Hell, I'll rent movies on Amazon Video when I need to watch something for the hit Jimquisition podcast The Spin-Off Doctors. It's easier than looking for illegal downloads of the shit, and the price point is exactly right, a few bucks a pop. This is not something the full-scale game industry has ever wanted to learn. I mean, fuck, just look at how much those arrogant shits at Square Enix charge for games on iOS while all their competitors are charging $2 or less for equally engaging product. Just look at the way game companies dealt with piracy and second-hand games, restrictions and stonewalls that only inconvenienced the paying customer and made illegal alternatives more attractive and convenient. So here comes the question, the one that might make Ben Kuchera angry at me on Twitter. Here it is. Why should I be expected to pay $5 for Mario Brothers on a console that could be obsolete soon with no guaranteed ability to carry my purchases through to the next console when I could have had the game running on my desktop for free with no restrictions whatsoever by the time it took me to finish asking this question? Because it's wrong? I mean, that's the reason, obviously, it's the only reason, because it's wrong. And let me bust out those caveats right now because I'm just as fond of covering my ass as any real games journalist. Of course it's wrong. The distribution of copyrighted code is illegal. The acquisition of ROMs is technically illegal, at least without the get-out clause of owning a legitimately purchased copy, and has at the very least been deemed unethical by people much more learned than I. It's wrong. It's definitely wrong. But it's not exactly an argument that speaks to the value of the product itself, is it? That doesn't sell me on anything. That's just appealing to decency. And it's corporations appealing to decency too, which is fucking rich. Nothing in that argument posits a reason why buying an official ROM from Nintendo, with all its restrictions and the fucking pain in the ass that is using one of Nintendo's online storefronts, is more convenient and worthwhile to me as a customer than the wrong alternative. And at the end of the day, the products are the same. Nintendo's selling little more than unaltered ROMs with nothing added, nothing giving it a unique selling point over the unofficial avenue. More importantly, it's not offering anything more convenient to the end user, no added benefit. There's the age-old argument that people who pirate aren't going to buy a thing anyway, so they don't count as a lost sale. I agree with that up to a point. Yes, some people will always pirate, emulate, whatever, for as long as they can get away with it. But there are those who do it because they're either financially restricted, geographically locked out by companies that aren't selling shit to them in their location, unable to buy what they want to play because Nintendo or whatever simply hasn't decided to drip feed a certain game to us, or otherwise just don't want the added hassle. These are all people who have demonstrated a willingness to pay if they could afford it, if they could access it, or if tossing out a few bucks would be less annoying than downloading it elsewhere. I should know I've been in all three of those demographics before. And none of this is to say emulation is right, or even something I'd encourage. What I intend to say is that sweeping it under the carpet is a bullshit move, a complacent move, and a move that could ultimately be ignoring potential added revenue, since it ignores a service when that service could be competed with and taken a step closer to obsolescence. Either way, it's not my job as part of games media to be protecting these fucking companies because they sure as fuck don't care about anyone else. So in that spirit, Voldemort, Voldemort, Voldemort. You know, I was just thinking about how Nintendo is more than likely probably going to Content ID this video because I used some Nintendo footage under fair use exceptions. And they're going to ignore the fair use thing and Content ID this and either seize ad revenue for themselves or just block ad revenue altogether. And I'm expected to stand here and tell you how it's wrong to steal from companies like Nintendo when companies like Nintendo have been stealing from YouTubers like myself for years now. So tell me again my moral duty here, as, you know, Content ID has been found to make companies several millions since its inception, and we don't know how much of that money's stolen, because that's what I consider it. If you're ignoring fair use law to take money for yourself without, you know, a trial or hearing or anything like that, then you are stealing. So, fuck you, I think is the, yeah, that's the right phrase, fuck you. I'm not encouraging it, I'm just saying I'm not fucking crying about it, okay? So thank God for me on that front. Hark the herald angels say it's time for fuck Konami news, all the news that's fit to make you say fuck Konami. This week we have news coming from the dank halls of Reddit, where social media guy Ben, representing Konami, has been defending the company for months, and recently has let slip a few things of interest to fuck Konami watchers. First of all, some old IP is being renewed and they're trying to find a new fit for it. Many people are speculating that's something to do with Silent Hill, and also the future of Metal Gear Solid is still something they're keeping an eye on. And all of this was couched with a lot of headlines where Ben was saying that they hope to earn back the trust of customers. That hurt my leg to do that because I've got a herniated disc, so that's how much I was dedicated to laughing at the idea that Konami is going to earn back any trust. No, seriously, like, ow. Ow. Companies say this all the time, of course. You know, EA wants to earn back our trust, Ubisoft wants to earn back our trust. They always want to earn back our trust. But Konami's a special exception because, unlike EA and Ubisoft, who were demolishing trust while still making games, and quality ones at that, in some instances, to the customers whose trust they're trying to earn back, Konami did just kind of fuck off. They did just kind of fuck far off, cancelling Silent Hills, shitting out Metal Gear Solid, the last one, with microtransactions and bullshit, treating Kojima like shite, and then focusing on pachinko machines and mobile stuff. You know, they pretty much sent the message last year that they fucked off and don't give a fuck. This isn't about earning trust. This is about, like, first of all, you've got to prove you give the slightest fuck about the audience you're now, you know, planning to pander to when you've finally decided to pull new proper video games out of your arsehole. It's not about trust. It's about you not being complete and utter dickheads. Can you manage that? I don't trust that you can. Fuck Konami.
What's that? That's the sound of 25 years of Sonic.